The best thing about adaptation is it gives something that you love the chance to be experienced by others who otherwise may not have ever engaged. The worst thing about adaptation is the possibility that what you loved is lost in translation, and now the public's idea of that work is a warped perversion of something that you cared about. Often, you just see it coming. Like there's no definitive Mario story, so of course the movie is just going to be a hodgepodge of Mario things. Then they slap in some licensed music and call it a movie. This even happens when it seems like it would have been a home run. The Resident Evil games on the PS1 already felt like action horror movies that you could be a part of and experience yourself. So when the time came to make a movie, you really wouldn't need to change that much. I don't have time to review this movie, so I'm going to express my feelings on it with a sound. The other iconic PS1 survival horror wouldn't be adapted until later on in 2006. Silent Hill is a game that, once again, already felt like a movie in how much atmosphere it had, and how detailed the world felt, and how strong the story is. You don't need to mess with much to translate a similar experience to the big screen. But this is Hollywood we're talking about. I mean, just look at what they did to me. You can't make a Silent Hill movie like your typical movie, because Silent Hill is not a typical game. I will say I truly believe the creators of this movie actually did have respect for the games and actually did enjoy them. It doesn't at all feel like they're just trying to use an established name to get their generic movie some publicity. This really is a Silent Hill movie. It's very easy to look at the things that it does weird and straight up misses and then think it's a bad adaptation, but I was actually quite blown away by how faithful a lot of it was. The aforementioned Resident Evil feels like it could have been any movie, just with the name Resident Evil slapped on it. This feels like they were really trying to be as faithful as they could for the most part, which shouldn't have been hard. Like I said, the story to adapt is right there in the game. The sets are already made, the characters are already fully realized. You don't really need to take many liberties. What is that story anyway? Harry Mason is going to Silent Hill with his adopted daughter Cheryl, but he crashes his car after seeing a figure on the road. He wakes up in a daze in the foggy Silent Hill, and he tries to find Cheryl along with the police officer Sybil Bennett. Along the way, he meets a crazy religious cult leader, Dahlia Gillespie, who says that she knows how to save the town from this horrible curse. As Harry explores this horrifying town, he sees that figure again, and when he finds her at the amusement park, the device he was given by Dahlia goes off and captures her. But it was all a trick! The figure was an apparition of Alessa Gillespie, the daughter of Dahlia Gillespie, who was forced to be the host of the cult's deity, who was going to be reborn on Earth. This did not end up happening, and though she was burnt alive, she is basically immortal, and she's still knocking about in the hospital in a decrepit state. When this happened, her soul split into two, one of which was the baby that Harry and his now dead wife found on the roadside 7 years ago. Long story short, Dahlia tries to bring back the god, it works, but she gets killed. Harry fights God, and once defeated, gifts Harry with the reincarnation of Alessa and Cheryl, a brand spanking new baby which he can take home and hopefully won't get into any more trouble in the future. The immediately noticeable change from the game to the movie is that Harry Mason is not a thing. He's not here. Now let's be clear, Sean Bean does play a character who is the adopted father of a girl, who was originally Alessa Gillespie, just like Harry Mason in the game, but instead his name is Christopher Da Silva? And get this, he doesn't even get to go to Silent Hill. Instead, his wife Rose goes to Silent Hill. I know what you're thinking. Wife? Aren't you meant to be dead? Not here. Christopher and Rose are the adopted parents of Sharon? Even the kid couldn't keep her name, and that's her fake name. Anyway, they are both very well and alive. This may not seem like much, but I really don't get this change. In the original game, Harry's wife is dead, and that increases his resolve to find Cheryl. You really feel like that's all he has left. In this, Rose just defies Sean Bean's orders and journeys to Silent Hill with their daughter. This decision just complicates things for no reason. I always liked how laser focused the story of Silent Hill games are. It shouldn't be cutting away from the town because you're meant to feel trapped in there. This movie loves cutting away from Silent Hill. The movie's got to keep showing us Sean Bean trying to get to Silent Hill and getting stopped by a police officer. I think this is incredibly boring. Once again, Silent Hill is a game about having you be in the town at all times. You're stuck there until you've done what you need to do. And why are we even doing this? If you wanted Sean Bean as Harry Mason / Christopher Da Silva, Just put him in the town and get rid of the Rose character that you made. And if you really don't want Sean Bean as Harry Mason in that town, just get rid of him entirely. There's just no need. Harry being a widow is such an important factor of his cause, wanting to find his daughter and get his family back together. I hate to say it, but this movie needed to bin the bean. If it was to pad out the movie, the runtime is 2 hours. Just cut out 20 minutes and it's still feature length. And I should add, I wouldn't care if it was just Rose in the movie. Harry Mason is not some deep layered character who needs to be represented on the big screen. He's essentially a blank slate aside from the key elements that we know about him, so swapping him for Rose is harmless. But they didn't swap, they shuffled around and forgot to get rid of the other person. And in the process, we lost some good old-fashioned emotional weight. But can I just ask, who casted Sean Bean as Harry Mason? Who made that call? I want to shake their hand, because I love when Sean Bean is in a movie. It cannot be understated how much I enjoy seeing that Sean Bean is in the cast of a movie. That is an awful choice for Harry Mason. You can just hear the Yorkshire accent fighting to get out with every line. But I will be honest, it wasn't the name on the cast list that got the biggest eyebrow raise from me. Danny Dyer! What, mate? Aside from the game's full motion video intro, Silent Hill begins as soon as the car is crashed and Harry Mason immediately has to look for Cheryl. I like stories that just drop you straight into it, so this was always fun for me. You don't have enough time to process your surroundings before you're already in the thick of it and wondering where you are. You get there and the place is just empty, foggy. It's full of flying beasts, and that confusion is awesome. You're just as bewildered as Harry Mason is. In the movie, Sean Bean is already googling scary ghost town websites that tell you directly that Silent Hill is abandoned and cursed, and is also in West Virginia, which is far less terrifying than its location in the games. Maine! Personally, I like being a bit confused. When you first get to Silent Hill, it could be anywhere, but finding out later that it holds this significance makes me feel like I'm digging deeper. If I go to a place that's already dubbed the Tainted Town, I know what to expect. So when I get there, it's like, okay, what you got for me? As opposed to that awesome, delicious feeling of, where am I? The Raid. That's a movie that starts right in the thick of it. You don't get any explanation. You just drop straight in there. And The Raid is awesome. You could have kept the opening from the game and just explained after the fact what's really going on. Throw us into the confusion and then explain afterwards. But being realistic, just because I can see it does work for a completely different movie doesn't mean there's anything wrong with this decision. I'm just saying, I like The Raid. They actually do use that time before entering Silent Hill to immediately make the characters a bit more relatable. There's a little scene of Rose and Sharon sharing a little snuggle under a tree and spending time with each other, which is something you don't really get with Harry and Cheryl in the game. But quickly do we find ourselves in Silent Hill, and this feels like the game. Rose is lost, walking around the foggy town. It's even accompanied by the music of Akira Yamaoka. This is actually awesome. This is exactly what a Silent Hill movie would be like in my mind. Just like in the game, Rose pursues Sharon down an alleyway and she finds herself somewhere else. This transition from the fog world to the otherworld is fantastic. Without you even realizing it, Rose has entered a dark, rusted, and bloody hellscape. Unfortunately for the rest of the movie, it's a bit more overt and obvious. When she crosses over in the school later on, the walls start peeling away like shedding skin, with a big air raid siren to tell you that we're not in the same place anymore. I guess they did this so the transformation would be more obvious than it was in the games, but the great thing about the games is that it wasn't obvious. I'm not going to act like Silent Hill games haven't done the more straightforward transitions from one world to the other, but I don't think it's controversial to say that it's most effective when you don't see it coming. One of my favorite moments in the original game is when you're in the hospital, and after some searching around the creepy but otherwise normal building, wondering where to go, you step in the elevator, and suddenly a new button has appeared on the console. But I've already been to every floor in the hospital. I've used the elevator for every one of these floors, so I guess I could press the button and just see where it leads. Oh, I'm in hell now. When the main characters are being fucked with, that means the audience is too, and that's a cool experience. Remember the Matrix? The game had a great sense of messing with your head, and if that was in the movie, I'd probably have a lot more to say about it scene for scene. It could be that in the movie, the characters don't really have enough time to explore these areas in depth, so the opportunity for that doesn't really come about. It feels like more of a point A to point B situation. even down to the map of the town becoming a straight line. Maybe if we didn't have to keep going back to Sean Bean, we could actually spend a bit more time getting lost in these creepy areas. Crazy idea, I know. But anyways, I don't really care about that because I know at this point in the game, Harry gets attacked by the first monsters he encounters in Silent Hill. Let's see those monsters. Wow. Time has not been kind to these creatures, but I say the designers at the time were even less kind. The creatures that attack Harry at this point in the original game are these weird little guys who aren't exactly the most imposing creatures, but there's a couple of them and it's quite unexpected. In the movie, there are many more of these freaks and they just look awful down to their very design. I've never seen anything like this in a Silent Hill game, and that wouldn't automatically make them bad, but they also don't fit in with the rest of the film's look. Even though this monster that Sybil Bennett guns down later in the movie does look technically awful, its design is ripped straight from Silent Hill 2, and it fits completely fine with the rest of the monsters in the area. The few practical creatures in this movie look really good, with real actors playing them, so I don't know why you wouldn't just put like 3 of them here. It would be impressive, imposing, without being overkill that looks like shit. This really did take me out of the movie on my first watch, and it did hurt my experience, considering I was enjoying it so much up until that point. I can't express how much I hate these freaks. They remind me of that talking slab monster from Zack Snyder's Justice League. You know that guy. Even more bizarre is the accompanying music. The Silent Hill 2 song Blank Fairy plays over this scene, and anyone who knows Silent Hill 2's soundtrack should think that that is a baffling decision. If you know where this song plays in the game, you're very aware of its significance and its very specific intention. Even if you don't know the initial context, just hearing this beautiful song, you can tell that it isn't conveying the emotion of this sudden ambush. I don't think anyone could explain why this was necessary, apart from filling the quota of iconic Silent Hill elements to put in the movie. And the thing is, that attitude can't be applied if it doesn't make sense. It did earlier when Rose first got into town, because the music was appropriate. This is not. The same can be said for the inclusion of Pyramid Head. When Rose is walking around the school and she sees a bunch of bugs, Pyramid Head appears. I actually don't object to Pyramid Head being here, because let's face it, even if you don't know shit about piss, you know Pyramid Head, and this probably would sell a lot of people on the movie. It's a striking visual. But aside from only appearing in the game that this movie specifically wasn't adapting, he serves a very specific purpose in that game, meaning that his inclusion here can feel a bit tacked on. Honestly, take him out of the movie and it would feel exactly the same. Now, on the one hand, I really hate this. Taking away all of Pyramid Head's symbolism and just turning him into a big hulking brute who just feels like any other slasher villain, which the public probably perceives him as anyway, is a bit annoying. On the other hand, it's probably sold a lot of people on the movie, because Pyramid Head is cool as fuck. So really, I don't think this was even the wrong decision to make, and I don't care about him being there, even if he serves no purpose. To make a good adaptation, you don't have to completely follow the source material to a T, you just need to understand why the original was beloved. I actually think they did understand that, but just didn't take bolder steps to separate this movie from other horror films of the era. When I say of the era, what do I mean? I mean the scary Ghost Kid era. The American versions of The Ring and The Grudge were recent and they were white hot, so you get the impression that they were like, hey, make the kid white and creepy. When Rose finally finds Sharon, she is a white creepy kid. This obviously was not a thing in the game, and I think it's very unnecessary. The kid is what the hero is trying to save. The town is the creepy part. You're diving into the belly of the beast to save the one you love. You don't have to make her a little ghoul too. Once again, I think it's just a product of the era. The changes made to Harry and the creation of Rose is weird, and I don't get the point. Aside from horror movies generally having female protagonists more often than not. But this is not the only character that was all jumbled up. Dahlia Gillespie is no longer the cult leader who abused her daughter Alessa. She is now a completely sympathetic character who was manipulated out of her daughter by a new High Priestess character, who has essentially taken on all of Dahlia's heelish traits, including burning children. And unlike the game, she is not alone. This foggy dimension is home to at least 20 religious followers of the High Priestess, who all are calling for the death of the cursed child. The only one in the game who was antagonizing you with these ramblings of a deity being reborn into the world was this lady. In the movie, "It's a whole damn town." And these ramblings don't feel so ominous now that everyone's cheering her on. In the game, you almost don't know whether to believe Dahlia before it's too late. Realistically, the cult actually having, people in it is probably easier for audiences to watch and understand as a credible threat. Strength in numbers, I hate to say it, but this feels a bit hokey. Even more so because they removed the whole angle of Dahlia abusing Alessa, which was something really dark and compelling from the game. But part of me was thinking, okay, well, maybe they just don't want to go there, it's a bit messed up. But then they reveal later on that Alessa was raped by a janitor, which is even more messed up than the thing they removed. If you ask me, this was completely unnecessary. The loneliness of Silent Hill doesn't really exist in the movie, at least not for long. You get some good time with Rose on her own at the start of the movie, but then Sybil tags along, and I got no problem with that. But then Dahlia Gillespie's in the picture, and then you got this lady who's only ever known living inside the fog world, and she was made for the movie, she's not even in the game. She dies anyway, so what was the point? And then you got all those people in the church, and it's just... In the game, as soon as you encounter the sinister or helpful characters within the town, they were just as quickly gone. It was like a fleeting moment before you get plunged back into that loneliness again. Your only constant accompaniment is the horrifying creatures who wander the town with you. And just to be clear, by keeping the spirit of the game, I don't mean it literally becomes identical to the game. We don't need to bring back the giant moth. That's not the spirit of Silent Hill. The spirit of Silent Hill is the fear of the unknown, and the feeling that you're truly lost and alone in a mysterious place. It's that feeling of not knowing how deep a hole goes, but you're already too far to turn back. I wouldn't say that's in the movie, at least not often. I very much felt like I knew where I was at all times, and I think that's something which was lost in translation. It's time to talk about Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead has 5 characters total, and all but one of them turns to the dark side over the course of the movie. Evil Dead 2 similarly has no more than 4 characters that actually interact with Ash. That's pretty much as many as you deal with in the original Silent Hill game. The horror of Silent Hill is very intimate. The more you populate the place, the more you're missing the point. I'm not saying this movie should have been more like The Evil Dead. Otherwise you would have had Sean Bean and Pyramid Head doing Three Stooges routines. Actually wait, that's fucking awesome. But as I said, Evil Dead 1 and 2 showed that you can do a really effective horror movie with pretty much one central character. And that was in a tiny cramped cabin. Silent Hill is a whole damn town. A lot of my problem with the movie would be solved if you just took away all the cult members aside from the High Priestess. You might think, well, now the town's empty. Well, my friends, that's the whole point. Silent Hill is empty. Harry and Sybil are like the last shred of human good and decency in this town. But aside from those two, there are other people in the town that demonstrate that in these games, less is more. The character of Lisa in the original game is one of the best parts of the whole story, and unfortunately the movie scales down her role immensely. Similarly, the role of Kaufman, which was instrumental to the end of the story in the game, has been completely removed. These two characters added a lot to Silent Hill without taking away from that feeling of loneliness. Swapping them for 20 or so cult members unfortunately does do that. The games are quiet. Any scenes of extended dialogue between characters is usually a reward for plunging yourself into a claustrophobic nightmare. But I don't think a studio in 2006 wanted to take that risk, at least not for a video game movie. All Is Lost is a movie that pretty much has no dialogue, and whether that's a good movie or not, I genuinely cannot remember. But it shows that it can be done. And the Silent Hill game has way more dialogue than that movie. I know I'm dwelling on this a bit too much, but the decision to omit Harry Mason in this movie really does make me scratch my head like a little chimp, mate. I always liked the Harry and Sybil dynamic from the first game, and I thought it would translate really well for a movie. I guess they had other ideas. They do keep that dynamic, but now it's between Rose and Sybil, which isn't even that bad to be honest. But on the topic of Sybil, there's another pretty significant change. When you get to the amusement park at the end of the game, you find Sybil and she's been taken over by a parasite and now you're forced to fight her one-on-one. If you hadn't done the side quest which allows you to save her, this was one of the darkest moments of the game and it forced you to do something you really didn't want. And once you've had to do it, it strengthens the resolve of Harry to end this madness. I say this because in the movie they just kill her anyway, but now the church just burn her alive. Unlike the game, I don't really feel anything about her death here. It just feels like an opportunity to show someone being burned alive, because you know they won't do it to the kid. in an attempt to make the cult feel more evil, which I already know because they want to burn a kid. The movie ends with a giant bed monster. Once Rose has journeyed through the hospital, a giant bed monster comes into the church and kills everybody. It's definitely something memorable, and it's cathartic to see the people be slaughtered. But the game has an ending which is much less busy, yet feels like a much bigger deal. You're pretty much there to stop the second coming of God, and you're just playing as some guy. The juxtaposition is awesome, and it feels climactic. It's just a simple gunfight like all the other bosses, but you're fighting God. It doesn't get bigger than that. I think once again this is an issue of the era, and the desire for this to be something bloodier, something gorier, something more in your face. I'm not even going to tell you this was the wrong decision, because I think a studio probably was always going to do something like this, or something like that. But I am noting that this is wildly different, primarily because Silent Hill is, for the most part, a lot more understated than what a Hollywood studio making a horror movie at the time may have wanted. Once again, dread and brief flashes of brutality is more this game's style, not a mass slaughter. Anyways, I think this bed monster is silly and it looks gross. Now, we're given plenty of insight into Alessa's tragic backstory, but all of this happens in the past. Almost all of it is pretty much conveyed in flashbacks and exposition, and this costed us some dramatic moments from the game that actually take place in the present. Harry having to fight Sybil, the final scene with Lisa, and even the, well, death of Cheryl that comes with the assimilation back into the whole Alessa. Now, that last one sort of happens in the movie, but the new Sharon is essentially the same character she was at the start of the movie. There's no loss there, she doesn't even remember what happened to her in the movie. When Harry leaves Silent Hill with the new reborn Cheryl, it feels like he has lost something, even if it is also a new beginning. That's bittersweet and I like it. One thing you gotta know about me is I love tragic endings. Evil Dead 2, go watch it. And Silent Hill's somber ending from the game is instead something admittedly a bit more sad. Rose and Sharon return to the house of Sean Bean, but realize that they're still trapped in the fog world, which really is some sort of parallel dimension to the Bean world. I actually like this. I think it's a really bleak way of ending things, and you know, it actually hit me emotionally. I actually was like, damn, that sucks. And once again, showing that you can use completely separate music from Silent Hill 2, but actually make it appropriate for the scene. This may shock you, but the CGI in this movie does not look good. The monsters look best when they are real and practical, which should not be a shock for a horror movie in 2006. Like, even though these CGI monsters look like shit, Pyramid Head actually looks good, even if his head is not a pyramid. Once you notice it, you can't stop looking at it. Why would they do that? It just makes the whole movie look unofficial. I think the environments always look pretty good in this movie, although maybe I shouldn't be seeing so much of them. One of the biggest takeaways from playing Silent Hill is how dark it is, and if you don't have your flashlight on, you won't see shit. But if you do turn it on, you're leaving yourself open to be swarmed by enemies. It's a trade-off that you don't feel in the movie because Rose can see everything just fine, and so can I. They do touch on this during the film's final act, but it almost feels cartoonish. They stop in place like it's musical fucking statues. Like, sure, when you have your light off, they don't approach you in the game, but they don't just freeze up. That would be ridiculous and wouldn't be scary at all. I was disappointed we didn't spend more time here because once again, the set looks great, and exactly what a Silent Hill movie would be in your mind. It's another one of those glimpses into something really cool. I like her reading the map desperately trying to memorize which way to go so she can get through. That's something that you would actually do in the game, but it just felt too brief. I guess we just needed more scenes of that church. I'm obviously speaking from the perspective of a Silent Hill fan who's judging the film as an adaptation. Hey, did you read the title? Someone who's never played the game might think that this is okay. They might think it's good, or they might hate it. But one thing I can say is the experience on display here is something completely different from the games. And that makes me sad. I can't stop crying myself to sleep because someone may have the wrong idea of what a media franchise is. My overall feeling on the Silent Hill film is that it's so close. I know people who absolutely hate this movie, but I cannot say the same. It's got a ton of issues, but it's usually accompanied by something that I can clearly see would work. And let me be clear, I don't even really like this movie that much. I'm just talking about it as an adaptation. Unlike some video game movies of the era, it doesn't feel ashamed to be a Silent Hill movie, not at all. I think it's very proud of what it's adapting. It's just that failure to capture the feeling of a Silent Hill game that means it can't fully realize its potential. as well as the straight up blunders that it makes while crossing over. It had potential. And I don't mean it had some hypothetical potential just by virtue of it being a Silent Hill movie. I'm actually seeing stuff on screen that shows the potential of this particular movie. I'm witnessing good things, and it bums me out that it just wasn't realized fully. I wish it was bolder, took more risks, didn't hold your hand, because that's how I always feel about the game. Silent Hill is the fear of the unknown. When someone says that another game or movie is giving Silent Hill vibes, it's not because of any of these things. It's because of this. Like I said, that opening from the crash up till the monster appearing is exactly how I thought a Silent Hill movie should be. I can't think of how fun that would be to experience as a person who's never played the games and is going in blind. Instead, I feel like they come away with an experience that's way too much like any other movie, just now with a big pyramid guy in it. The director of this movie, Christopher Gans, clearly admired and understood Silent Hill. He initially wanted to adapt the second game because it's more emotional and more beloved by fans. One of the reasons he didn't is because the town only acts as a backdrop in that game and doesn't include any of the mythology present in the first. I gotta say, I don't get why that alone would sway you. He's right that the history of the town takes a backseat in Silent Hill 2, but that's because its characters are stronger, and the town itself is one of those characters. You feel it messing with you everywhere you go. I've tried to keep from talking about it before now, but I really feel like it must be said. I think they should have tried to adapt the second game. Once again, the story is easier to follow. There is way less exposition required, the pacing and escalation of events is downright fantastic, and you don't have to change anything too drastically. I say all of this because right now they are literally making a Silent Hill 2 adaptation that is hurtling towards us at high speed! Maybe another reason they didn't do the second game is because unlike 1, it doesn't have a direct continuation to turn into a sequel, and they wanted to get the most out of this property. I actually thought that Silent Hill 3 would fare better as a film, just due to the fact that it feels more cutscene heavy than the first game, and as a byproduct of being on better hardware, it could have more detailed scenarios. Anyways, before I do this, I'm just gonna, hang on, let me just get my red nose, get my big shoes, rainbow wig, there we go. Okay, let's watch. Heather sees a bum on a guy's face. Heather Mason knows what Twitter is. Fucking Kit Harington. Why is there so much mention of Facebook in this movie? What the hell is that? Trinity, what are you doing? Why did you kill him? So he is called Harry Mason. Is that fucking Pyramid Head is a baby face. It's time to play the Silent Hill Art of Adaptation drinking game. Here are the rules. Every time I say one of these words, you take a shot of vodka. The words are movie, game, Silent Hill, Sean Bean, and Harry Mason. Have fun! Goodies? What kind of goodies can you purchase from ghosttownsofamerica.web?